Greetings, everyone. Recent polls in key battleground areas show that Kamala Harris has advanced, now leading by as much as 3 points in several crucial swing states. We will explore the most recent polling figures and start to shade our map, beginning with states firmly in the Republican grip: Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, South Carolina, West Virginia, and the 2nd Congressional District of Maine. Turning to the Democratic stronghold states, the solid backers of the Democrats are Hawaii, California, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, the 2nd District of Nebraska, Illinois, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, the 1st Congressional District of Maine, and Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, Harris now enjoys a 1.5-point advantage over Trump, an uptick from Biden's 1.2-point win in 2020. Harris's chances in Pennsylvania are enhanced by her significant backing in metropolitan areas such as Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, coupled with her resonance with the working-class voters in the state's manufacturing regions. In Michigan, Harris is leading by 2.3 points, a marginal enhancement over Biden's nearly 3-point lead in the prior election. Her prospects in Michigan look promising, bolstered by the backing she receives from labor unions and her initiatives to revitalize the auto industry, which have garnered widespread approval among the electorate. In Wisconsin, Harris maintains a lead of 1.6 points. The state was closely contested in 2020, with Biden emerging victorious by a margin of 20,000 votes. Harris is in a strong position to capture Wisconsin by ensuring a high voter turnout in Democratic strongholds such as Madison and Milwaukee and making inroads with suburban voters. In Minnesota, Harris outpaces Trump by 6 points, slightly below Biden's 7.1-point lead in 2020. Thanks to her substantial support in the metropolitan areas of the Twin Cities and her progressive policies, Harris is likely to clinch a victory in Minnesota, aligning with the state's traditionally liberal voting trend. In Iowa, Trump is ahead of Harris by 4 points, a closer margin compared to his 8-point triumph in 2020. Trump seems set to win Iowa again, leveraging his strong support base among rural constituents and farmers who appreciate his agricultural and trade policies. In Nevada, Harris leads Trump by a marginal half point. Although Biden won the state by 2.4 points in the last election, Harris's slight advantage in Nevada could be ascribed to her robust support from the rapidly growing Latino community and the endorsement of powerful labor unions in Las Vegas. In the highly competitive state of Arizona, the race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris is exceedingly close, with Harris having a slight edge in recent surveys. Despite Joe Biden's narrow victory in Arizona by just 0.3 percentage points in 2020, the state remains a toss-up. However, Harris stands a good chance of securing a victory if she can effectively engage the important Latino voter segment and attract moderate Republicans in suburban areas. In New Mexico, Kamala Harris holds a significant advantage, leading by 9 percentage points over Donald Trump. Reflecting on Biden's 2020 victory in this state by almost 11 points, there's a clear preference for Democratic candidates here. Harris is likely to secure a comfortable victory, drawing support from New Mexico's varied ethnic populations and from voters who prioritize environmental conservation. Meanwhile, in Alaska, Donald Trump is ahead with a 5-point advantage over Harris. His previous 10-point win in the 2020 elections suggests that he will likely maintain dominance. Trump continues to enjoy strong backing from the oil and gas industry and receives widespread support from residents in less urbanized regions, reinforcing his position in Alaska. In Texas, Trump has managed to establish a lead of 6.2 points over Harris. His victory in the 2020 election by a margin of 5.6 points indicates his ongoing strength in the state. Trump's policies focusing on border security and energy resonate well with Texas's conservative and rural constituents, enhancing his appeal. In Florida, Trump leads Harris by 4.2 points, building on his 3.5-point victory in the state from the 2020 election. His strategy appears to be effective once more, with robust backing from key demographic groups including the elderly, Cuban Americans, and rural inhabitants, all crucial for winning Florida's diverse electoral votes. Georgia presents a tight race where Trump currently leads by just 1 point. Biden narrowly won Georgia in the 2020 election by about 12,000 votes. Trump's slight edge here could potentially translate into a victory as he intensifies efforts to mobilize rural voters and focuses on election integrity, a top priority for his core supporters. In North Carolina, the competition is intense, with Harris quickly closing the gap on Trump, who leads by only 0.3 points. Trump's narrow 1.3-point win in 2020 illustrates the state's competitive dynamics. North Carolina's role as a battleground state is highlighted by the ongoing tug-of-war for swing votes, making it a focal point for both campaigns. Looking ahead to the upcoming election, Trump's influence remains strong among rural constituents and his conservative base, but his overall victory margin may be slim. In New Hampshire, Harris is projected to have a 7.5-point lead. While no data from the 2020 election is available to compare, her progressive stances and connection with the state's well-educated, politically engaged voters suggest she will prevail. Shifting to Virginia, Harris maintains an approximately 8-point lead. Biden's previous 10-point win in Virginia during the 2020 elections, along with Harris's substantial support from the diverse and densely populated Northern Virginia and college-educated suburban voters, indicates she will likely replicate Biden's success. In Ohio, former President Trump is currently ahead by 9 points, improving upon his 8-point victory in the 2020 election. He appears poised to secure the state once again, resonating with voters from the declining industrial sectors and rural regions. Should these trends continue, Vice President Kamala Harris would still secure the presidency. Yet, it's crucial to recognize that slight variations in voter surveys could drastically shift the overall result. For example, if states such as Wisconsin and Michigan were to change their support from Harris to Trump, it would cause a substantial 26-vote swing in the Electoral College, potentially setting Trump on a course to win. This scenario would necessitate Harris to devise new strategies to garner the 270 electoral votes needed, possibly intensifying her campaign in Pennsylvania and indicating a shift among working-class voters towards Trump. In a contrasting scenario, shifts in voter allegiance in Georgia and North Carolina from Trump to Harris would provide her with an additional 31 electoral votes, giving her more flexibility in her electoral approach. This would enable her to afford losses in states like Wisconsin or Arizona and still secure a win in the Electoral College. Such changes would highlight an expanding Democratic influence in the southern United States driven by evolving demographic patterns and a surge in minority voter participation. These examples demonstrate how the election's direction could hinge on just a handful of pivotal states with minor polling fluctuations. Furthermore, examining the potential electoral outcomes if betting odds rather than traditional polling data predicted the 2024 presidential race introduces an intriguing perspective. This approach suggests a different trajectory from past election forecasts. The latest betting odds favor Vice President Harris in crucial swing states such as Nevada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Virginia, and New Mexico. Conversely, betting markets predict that former President Trump will likely win in states including Iowa, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and Alaska. Despite prior polls suggesting a decisive victory for Joe Biden, the previous election was remarkably close in the Electoral College, hinting at a possibly tight race this year as well. As the election in November draws near, we encourage you to subscribe to remain engaged with our content.